This is our second video to demonstrate the way that the ICT global model will be presented in the Analysys Mason DataHub. Today we're going to focus especially on the routes to market splits. As before, we'll demonstrate a typical search and explain the key dimensions of this impressive dataset. The ICT global model, developed by AMI partners, comprises a dataset with over 7.5 million data points. The forecasts describe the trajectory for enterprise adoption and spend on over 130 ICT categories. It is ideally suited to presentation within the Analysys Mason DataHub. Currently, the DataHub presents actuals and forecast data for service providers drawn from the Analysys Mason research portfolio. Since the scope of the ICT global model extends beyond the world of the service provider, we will present the ICT global model data on a separate tab here. First, we need to select a geography for our search. Let's compare the United States and China. Now we want to choose our metrics from the huge selection available, over 77,000 as indicated by this Show Metrics bar. This number will gradually reduce as we refine our search. I'm going to use these dynamic filters to focus in on the data I want to see, and this process will also demonstrate the overall dimensions of the dataset. Each of these filter boxes allows us to refine our search and find the data we need. There are filters on metric type, business size, ICT, and routes to market and vertical markets. The routes to market splits give a valuable additional layer of insight into the distribution of enterprise ICT spend. I'm going to ask my colleague Tom Rebeck, head of the Managed Service Providers Programme, to explain further about this important dimension. Over to you, Tom.
Thank you, Hilary. One of the elements that we have in our model that we think is unique to our forecast is the splits by route to market or by channel. For each of the metrics we have, we can show not just how much businesses are spending, but also which channel they're spending with. We have in our model 8 different categories, such as managed service providers, systems integrators, and channel partners. So to give an example, we can show spend on a category, such as software as a service, and provide figures on how much is being bought direct from the vendor, how much is being bought through managed service providers and through systems integrators and so on. We can also show this data 1 or 2 layers down. So we could look at spend on email by channel, or even spend on email by companies in the USA in the 5 to 9 employee category, and split out how much of that spend is it with each type of channel. We think this is valuable as it helps technology providers understand the relative importance of the different channels. So it could help, say, a security vendor understand how much spend is going through systems integrators or managed service providers. It could also be used by the different channels themselves to understand the relative importance of different products. So for example, it could give a managed service provider, an MSP, a picture of the products it should focus on for growth. And with that, I'll hand back to Hilary.
Thanks, Tom. Now let's build a search, starting with metric type. I'm going to select spending for my metric type, and I still have 47,000 spending metrics to choose from. Next, I'm going to select my business size category. This time I'm going to select a large business with between 5 and 10,000 employees. Now we'll select an ICT category. There are over 130 ICT categories in total. This dimensions filters have been split into 2 tiers to make it easier to find what you need. At the top level, I'm going to select infrastructure. Notice how the non-infrastructure elements are immediately greyed out. Now I'd like to refine my search further by selecting infrastructure as a service. There are now 81 possible metrics to choose from. So let's look at the split by routes to market. These 8 subcategories show through which channel the enterprise spend was made, and the all category is the sum of all spending regardless of routes to market. The quick way to tick all 8 granular routes to market boxes is first to tick all, and then to toggle the selection by clicking the top of the box here. Notice how at the granular routes to market level we do not have splits by vertical market. Enterprise spending is either split by routes to market or by the verticals. Now that I've selected the categories, let's look at the 24 metrics which meet this criteria. We have data on spending on infrastructure as a service, storage online backup for each of the 8 routes to market, and the same for storage simple development, and the same for recovery as a service, making 24 metrics in total. As before, these information icons contain definitions for each metric. Now I'm going to view the results by clicking the search button. This table displays the results for China and the United States, their spending in US dollars on each of the 3 infrastructure as a service subcategories for the size of large enterprise that we specified. The spend is further broken down between the 8 routes to market. The results span over 3 pages as follows. So here's the simple development, and here's the recovery as a service. The results are colour-coded to distinguish between actual data and the forecasts in blue italics. The help icons now show you the vintage of the forecast as well as the definitions. This chart icon here will show you a single line of data, or if you want to compare some results, you can select them and chart your selection. So I'm going to select Storage Online Backup for hosters and service providers for China, and the same for the United States. Here's my chart. As previously described, you can export your data into an Excel spreadsheet. The data is replicated in Excel using the same formatting conventions. We also download the filters and definitions so that you can manipulate the data in your own way. This is just one of the sets of results from the vast selection in the ICT global model. The DataHub interface will make it very easy to access this dataset. It will also add transparency with its clear articulation of the taxonomy and detailed annotation throughout. Thank you for listening. Please get in touch to find out more.